Hello, everybody. Looks like we have several people logging in right now. I just wanted to chime in a little early and welcome everybody to the webinar. We're just going to probably start pretty close to being on time, just making sure we have enough people registering and moving forward. So I appreciate it. Please be patient, and I'll kind of give some logistics here in a second about how the operation of the webinar is going to happen, as well as some topics. So just hang tight, and I appreciate you guys logging in early. Thank you, everybody, for logging in here to the webinar today. We're just going to kind of hold off for about 1 more minute before I start giving out some instructions, giving a chance people to log in and register. So just hang tight here for 1 more minute, and then we'll get started. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are attending, I appreciate you arriving today and participating in the online advertising, How to Be Successful, present to you by the Better Business Bureau in your local area and Platypus. We just to kind of take over some logistics as far as the webinar is concerned, we are going to have a question and answer period at the very end. There is a portal once you log in usually on the right hand of your screen that asks for questions. Feel free to send the questions at any time. We will just tackle all of those questions at the very end. There is also a chat box at the very bottom as well, which we could definitely communicate. But at the end of the day, this webinar is intended to basically give you as much information as possible with regards to online advertising. Try to set it up, and we'll kind of go through those logistics. So for those of you just logged in, again, questions and answers will be at the very end, and feel free to send over those questions at any time on the chat box and the question box that's located in the webinar series. So let's get started. The online advertising scope of the entire industry is an endless chasm of information and education. So our goal here today is to try to focus on a few things that are going to set you up for success. And most of that is on the initial setup and process. But online advertising, we want to really focus on the initial approach. We're going to talk about personas or audiences today. We're going to talk about how targeting and budgeting and strategy can all fit in to your success. We're going to walk through those details. We even have some materials for you after we're all done, some free templates for you guys to use to even get started. So we're excited to distribute those too as well. The production side of it, we're going to talk about flowcharts, how to kind of map out your success, how to create great content that's mapped to your type of business. And then from there, talk a little bit about, launching the ads, refinement of the ads, kind of industry terminology so that you guys are set up to kind of move forward. Our intention here is to have multiple webinars throughout the year that focus on setting up your online presence. And with the Better Business Bureau, offerings for online advertising as well as other platforms, there's a vast availability for businesses to really enhance their business profiles and business image so that they can take advantage of all the consumers that are obviously focused on looking at businesses online. So really looking forward to giving you that. A little information on myself. My name is Rafael Riconosciuto. I've been with Platypus Media and Advertising Design for over 18 years now, and been working with the Better Business Bureau for more than 16. And worked with different agencies, worked with video production, worked with marketing in many different capacities, focusing on businesses, targeting B2B, business to business and business to consumer type of verticals, including sales. I've also been on the sales side of it, to where I feel is a big part of even the advertising success, because advertising can set up opportunities, but it is up to the business to convert those opportunities to an actual sale or a conversion of a client. So that's also important. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today too as well. But welcome. Thank you very much for attending, and we're going to jump right into it right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is the initial approach. The initial approach that I always like to talk about is building a solid foundation, and I kind of use a house as sort of a similarity to kind of convey, or a symbol to convey the necessity of every business and what they need to do to set them up for success. So we talk about a foundation. A foundation is a website. It has SEO, it has content, video, design, all the things that you have to focus on to really have a solid foundation to build from, because that website is going to be why you show up on search engines. It's going to be tied to profiles on the Better Business Bureau. It's going to be tied to so many different things. So make sure we have a solid foundation to work from. From there, you're managing your profiles across the web. We call this business listings. From there, social media can start tying in, promoting with existing customers, acquisition of referrals, things like that. But today we're going to focus on online advertising. Even though it is at the top or the roof of the house, it is also important to kind of see this bigger picture so that you can build that foundation so that it's optimizing these other opportunities. So from there, once you have that focus, we want to then move towards understanding your customer. Who is your customer? A lot of businesses that I speak with sometimes have a very in-depth view of what their customer is, but they don't go as far as really diving into the details to really utilize that information to maximize their online advertising opportunities. And this goes even beyond online advertising. It can be applied to anything to maximize your business and to move that forward and grow. So understanding your audience, your customer, your potential customer, sometimes they call it a persona, building a personality that essentially you can work from to shape and mold your advertising. So let's talk about what that kind of entails. So a persona includes all of these things on the left-hand side. Everything from age, gender, locations of where they're actually physically at, everything from technology that they use. Is it mobile phones? Is it specific browsers that they use? What are their pain points? What are their triggers of sense of urgencies? Kind of getting into like their persona or their personality of what really motivates them. All of this goes into really understanding your customer and allows you to be able to make really educated decisions on how to set up advertising so that you're not wasting budgets. Your strategy is going to be more successful up front. But again, there's always refinement after that because every platform is different. So a lot of our business are asking us, how do I get this info? How do I get this information? Well, start gathering that info with your existing customers. Anytime you onboard a customer, asking, taking note, understanding what they're at, what getting more information with regards to their age, their gender, all of these things play a huge part. Obviously, the location plays a part of that too. There's also free tools out there that allows you to be able to get this information if you have these profiles. Google Analytics, which is something that you can tie into your website, that gives you technology and visits and impressions. And sort of search habits. Facebook and other social platforms have other types of demographics like age, gender, economic status, things like that. So, all of this information is available to you. Obviously, I would always make sure that you visit the terms and service to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that. Obviously, within those platforms, that's information that it can be definitely useful, but should be used right and should be used correctly. So the biggest thing I always tell businesses, number one, is absolutely 100% write everything down. I'm a big Excel user, Google Sheets. There's many different database or spreadsheet sort of formats, but start building this. Start looking at your customers. Start putting together and start looking at the bigger picture. If you have, say, 100 customers, there's going to be synergy and conclusions that you can bring that allows you to say, hey, most of my customers are between the age of 35 and 45. Well, does that then allow you to make different decisions on different ad platforms to be able to target those people, better understand what that type of demographic is? Absolutely. And again, male versus female, gender, all this other stuff, all of these allow you to be able to creatively come up with content, creatively target, and at the same time refine your strategy so that you are maximizing your money from day one. So write that stuff down. I cannot emphasize that enough. All right, so let's talk about the targeting. Targeting is important because once you have all this information, once you have built a persona, and one of the things we're going to give you guys at the end is reach out is a kind of a template to start building that persona. So once you have that, that sheet in front of you, that you have a good understanding of your customer, then how do you utilize that in a targeting aspect? So, each platform is unique, and I cannot emphasize this enough that, certain platforms sometimes don't have information that can be transcended from one to another. Some may target by location, most of them target by keyword. The Better Business Bureau is a good example where they can target by the type of business that you essentially, that consumers are looking for. So that's a great way to target and try to refine your ads. Age, gender, marital status, all of those things are platform dependent. Location targeting, also consider, restrictions on platforms that may not allow you to go sort of outside your service area. So at the end of the day, learn about those targeting and focus on how do you use that platform to kind of checkbox as much of the persona information that you've collected. And the more that you can refine that, the better off you're going to be because you've done your research, right? And then again, if you want to experiment outside of different personas, then you can create separate campaigns to be able to see if that works. But if you just throw a cast of a wide net without any sort of targeting, then you're not really going to come to any conclusions. And I'm a big fan of your successes and your failures are just as important or equally important to refining your advertising. And that is a big thing that we'll get into here in a little bit. All right, so the next thing is strategy. I'm sure many of you have heard of a sales funnel, but there's also a marketing funnel. A marketing funnel essentially represents where you start and cast that wide net, whether that's a refined net or a large one that we talked about before, and it funnels down to an actual customer. And understanding that process and really mapping out that process is extremely important. So let's kind of talk about like the different stages. So right now, the audience, which is your persona, if you create that, you understand the demographics, the interests of your actual audience, then that's going to be your top of your funnel. That's going to be where you're going to start your advertising and strategy. And then the next thing is getting those advertisements and whatever platform it is and whatever format, getting that out there to the world to where you start building awareness, you start educating about your business, opportunities about your business, a sale, whatever it may be. That's the awareness. And then following up, making sure you continually put that message in front in many different creative ways that essentially puts a consumer or a customer in a position to consider doing business with you. Then there's the conversion. The conversion is actually when they are reaching out to you in some capacity, whether that's a click, whether that's a phone call, whether that's submitting their information for you to give them a call, or are they actually purchasing something online? That's a conversion. And as we get close, as you can tell, though, that's why this is a funnel, because there's going to be a ton of people in your audience to start, and then it slowly refines and goes to the funnel to the point where you're following up with them as a customer to make sure that you maximize the opportunities of your current customers moving forward. So if you understand that concept, if you understand what we're trying to achieve, starting with your persona and building that strategy, then we start getting into actually looking at the individual platforms and sending them up to achieve exactly that. So you've mapped it out right now, you have your persona. The next step is to look at the strategy of kind of how you want to engage that. And now you have to adapt that strategy to each platform. And I'm going to use the Better Business Bureau platform, their advertising platform and sponsorship platform to kind of articulate this point. I'm really big on flowcharts. I think this helps visualize how you can utilize any particular advertising platform, whether it's Google, whether it's social and Facebook, or whether it's Better Business Bureau. This allows you to be able to maximize and actually map out the content and map out everything so that you can have a great solid foundation to being successful in maximizing your conversions. So let's talk about that. So this is just a rudimentary flowchart. You start with your persona and your audience. What do they do? First, they visit bbb.org. And what are they doing? They're looking for a particular business in a particular area. In this case, I just put carpet installation, and they're looking in Jefferson County. And that carpet installation, understanding the different types of keywords, right? They could be searching for carpets. They could be searching for tile installation or carpet installer. There's many different ways in which consumers are doing that. Most platforms, no different than the Better Business Bureau and Platypus, consult businesses on trying to maximize those keywords because they know the platform the best, and that should be something that any platform offers you to be able to maximize your advertising. So making sure they are aligned to the target and the strategy you are looking for, that's important. So, and then again, here's the targeting, Jefferson County. Pick the service area of your service area on the Better Business Bureau so that you can focus those ads in those areas. There's no point to go outside of that. And we want to refine those advertisers and maximize your budget in that area. So the next thing is, okay, the listing that is placed when somebody does search. They type in a search of carpet installation. Now there's a list of businesses where your advertisement would be placed at the top. And this listing would include your company logo. It would include a request a quote button so they can contact you directly. And then it also links to your profile landing page. This profile landing page has many opportunities to, what we'll get into here on this next slide, to convert that customer, to influence them to move on to that next step. And then from there, you're hoping to with some sort of conversion, call, a form, website, email, whatever it is. So this basically flowchart gives me the customer journey that they go through so that you understand where the opportunities lie. So in this flowchart, as the consumer eventually ends up calling you, you know that you need to maximize your keywords, your targeting. You need to maximize the listing with the location. And then you also need to maximize the profile and landing page. So, and then you also know essentially what are the forms of conversion that essentially you need to focus on. So now that this happens, the next step really is, okay, what content can I set up all of these different areas to make sure that I can successfully convert that consumer to a customer? So this is where this content creation comes into play. So again, still maintaining the Better Business Bureau ad platform. There's the listing. So it has a company logo. We want to optimize location and keywords. Again, usually, Platypus always helps out businesses to kind of refine this and get everything set up correctly. But you guys being educated and giving us some direction in your preferences, those are always great. We always like educated businesses that want to really maximize their advertising. So those are the things I need to get ready. The next thing is the business profile page for the BBB. That includes your rating, your reviews, pictures, video, social links, company description, your licensing information. All that should be optimized. That page is designed to convert consumers to be comfortable to reach out to you in whatever capacity, whether that's a call, a form submission, a website, an email. So make sure you have as many of those things as possible. Video is big. We can't emphasize enough on video. That is something that, the attention spans of consumers are really short. Video can convey a ton of information in a shorter time in a very professional way, and something that should always be optimized on whatever platform you have. And then the last thing, like I said, call, form, or website or email. So if you know they're going to call you, make sure you set that up to make sure to receive that call in a positive way. If they're submitting a form, make sure you're following up on that information via email as soon as possible. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. So hopefully that gives you a sense and a map of all the things that kind of go into setting that up for success. Too many businesses throw money at advertising, but then don't really have the tools around the advertising, because it's not just the budget and the ad, it's also the follow-up and what we build around it that makes it successful. And that's why a holistic approach is always going to work better than just throwing ads online. So now that we've set everything up, we have a strategy, we have a persona to work from, we've set up and understand the platforms we're doing, we have the content that we've created and understand sort of the journey of that customer. Now we can launch it. We can launch our ads and start looking at it. And I want to quickly go through a few key terms to kind of frame up this conversation moving forward, which is, once I've launched it, you'll hear click-through rate, a CTR. Click-through rate is simply just a way to represent the success in one capacity as far as clicks on your ads. It's just a percentage that is used on how many times an ad is displayed versus how many times it's clicked. International industry averages range from 0.08 to 0.1%. So that means basically on 1,000 ads, you're going to get one click. And so the impressions are a big thing, but it's also setting right expectations of what successes are. There's a lot of traffic that comes to websites, a lot of traffic that comes to the Better Business Bureau. And we have to understand that we have to continue to place ads and focus the efforts to try to get people's attention so we can talk about conversions. Conversions basically represent your end goal. What is your end goal of your campaign? Is it to have somebody call you, to email you, to purchase something online? If you know what that conversion is, then we can tie a conversion rate, right? We can even start looking at acquisition costs based with your advertising. If you got one customer out of 10 clicks, that's a great conversion rate. That's a 10% conversion rate, and obviously you can equate that to a dollar spend that you can actually increase advertising for. So know what your conversions are. It's extremely important, and also defines exactly what your end goal is. Impressions. Impressions are used pretty universally on all platforms, but basically it's how many times your ad has been displayed on a website or platform or whatever it is. That is basically a representation of essentially how many times your ad was available to view. But again, it's completely separate from how many times it was clicked or conversions or anything else. I also wanted to mention engagement. Engagement is really used on social platforms. Social platforms basically have ways in which consumers and visitors and users can engage with content, meaning they can like it, or they can share it, or they can place comments. So it's essentially, when you place ads on social media, it allows you to be able to find what that engagement is, in addition to impressions and clicks and everything too as well. That engagement is important. That says that your content is worthy enough for them to actually share it or like it or engage with it in some kind, and that is definitely an indicator that your ads are having an impact in some way, shape, or form. So something I recommend all of everybody that's doing online advertising, especially on social media, take a look at that. So now that we have a solid foundation of sort of the terminology, really the next thing is talking about your strategy moving forward once these ads are online. So let's talk about number one, diversity. So I recommend to every business that you diversify your online advertising as much as you can. Consumers don't always go to Google. There's Yahoo and there's other search engines too as well, even though Google is a big, the majority for sure. But they come to Better Business Bureau to look up businesses because they're looking up reputation. They're coming to different other platforms to look on social media and get referrals from their friends. So at the end of the day, whether you're going to the Better Business Bureau, whether you're optimizing their ads there on that site, diversify. If you're doing something with one company, you should look at diversifying that budget as much as you can so that you can capture as many of your consumers or potential customers as possible. ABC. So this is the sales part of what I mentioned before. Always be closing. So online advertising, so many businesses place ads and they're, sometimes there's a big question mark on the end of what's going on. Why are you not getting any phone calls? if you have the approach no different in sales where you're always closing, that everything that you create, everything that you set up in the advertising, your strategy, your personas is set up to have that mentality that I need to close this business. It is the business's responsibility to be able to talk with that customer and sell them, give them a proposal and close it, or to get a customer. So in the end, if your ads, your videos, your text, your website is always focused on that message, that what can I do to influence that consumer to purchase something from me or become a customer, always be closing, having that mentality will really help up strategize and also create the content that you need to convert those customers. So extremely helpful sort of insight. Sales is always a part of any business, and hopefully that can help sort of drive that consumer interest as well as that conversion too as well. So the last thing is just be patient and refine. Online advertising is not an exact science. Um, Too many, I see this all the time where they may start advertising on something and they don't see immediate results and they just give up on it. It's not a good strategy. I think online advertising is something that definitely needs to be paid attention to. You have to refine the results. And I mentioned before, failures are just as important as successes. And you have to really take that mantra and say, okay, if this information, say for example, you placed an ad and it was to a particular demographic, and that demographic didn't respond well, your click-through rate or your conversion rate is extremely low. Well, that is valuable information. That means on your ads across the board, you know that that demographic necessarily doesn't respond to this messaging, and so you can refine it and try to maximize it. So you have to have failures in order to have successes, and definitely be patient through that process, but be proactive. Be proactive in that sense too as well. All right. I wanted to share a couple statistics with you as we kind of wrap up the webinar. And again, feel free to start asking questions in the question box. We're pretty close to the end here, and I want to definitely get to as many questions as you guys have. Definitely, again, just look for the question and answer section too as well. So 69% of digital media time is spent on mobile devices. So I haven't really mentioned mobile too much, but the mobile is a huge factor. Most platforms already do this when you're advertising. They want to maximize opportunities on mobile devices, but the Better Business Bureau, the entire platform is mobile optimized. If somebody's using a phone, it's going to be easy for them to use, and the advertising should be reflected on that as well, because those mobile devices are important. It doesn't necessarily have to be an app. It can be definitely just somebody visiting online or on maps or whatever it is, but essentially that coordination and that oversight on mobile devices is something that every business should get into, because that's where everything's going. I'll tell you a story. I just recently got back from New York, and I didn't even really open my laptop once because we're running around with meetings all the time, and I was just managing my day-to-day over with my phone. And sometimes you have businesses and consumers that are busy and they're doing the same thing. So just keep that in mind, that mobile should always be a part of your strategy. Okay, next statistics, really good one. Social media platforms capture 33% of that time users spend online. So whether you're maximizing your social presence and links and profiles so that it's on, say, for example, the Better Business Bureau profile or other profiles, whether you are placing ads on social media, just know that that's a big influence. That's a big influence for consumers, and keep in mind you can target certain demographics to get to your consumers. One of the things that on the previous webinar we did, someone asked, I think there was a music company and they were wanting to try to influence students and parents and teachers on the importance of music. Well, if you can influence the students when they're on social media with advertising on why music is important, then you can ultimately touch your potential customer, which is the parents that are purchasing those instruments or classes or whatever it is. So just keep that in mind. That can be part of your strategy, where you know who your persona is, you know who your customer is, but what are some influencing factors outside of that you could potentially target that eventually will then end up getting to your ideal customer. So social media is a good way to do that. Oops, excuse me. I clicked the wrong thing here. So the last one is 86% of consumers would like to receive promotional emails at least monthly. The reason why I put this in here is, email marketing is a part of online advertising in some capacity. But there is this common misconception out there that email doesn't work so much anymore. But I think at the end of the day, it is a good option for businesses to at least retain and communicate with your existing customers, making sure that you continue that relationship beyond the sale. Good thing to invest in for sure, especially if your conversions that you're considering is not a phone call. Maybe it's a form submission where they send their email address. Well, then you have that email address, permission from the customer, and at that point, you can send them an initial email. They can opt in to a newsletter or whatever it is, so that you can have that continued continued touch point. Because it does take many times for a business to decide to do business, and we should all take advantage of that by sending content and as much information as they would like. Excuse me. All right, so the excuse me, I keep it in the wrong lane. Excuse me. All right, so that is it. We are recording the webinar, which will be available for you probably within about 48 hours. We just got to convert it and send it over to everybody that's registered. I do have a survey that's also going to go out, so I do appreciate your feedback. We always want to have some feedback from our attendees to see what we can improve, and definitely want to touch base with them if there's other topics and things that they're interested in. And then also that free templates. We want to send that persona template, so please look out for that. We really look forward to touching base with each one of you and making sure you have everything that you need if there's any other questions that you have. Terry mentioned, will the slides be available to print? The video itself is going to be distributed. We're not going to distribute the actual presentation, but you can definitely take screenshots or print it off from your screen if you guys would like. So, but the video will be available. That everything that I've said today and presented today is going to be available for everybody. So feel free to start dumping questions in there. I'll probably stay on for the next 10 minutes or so. Would love to help out in any way, shape, or form, but we really appreciate it. Again, this is put on by your local Better Business Bureau in Platypus, and we definitely help out businesses to try to set up their opportunities on the Better Business Bureau website, as well as other platforms, and obviously guide businesses to a more a successful online presence in every way, shape, or form. So feel free to dump any questions if you guys would like. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to touching base with you soon. So I had Monica send a question. How do I learn more about keywords? Any sites that help with that? That's a great question. So keywords are important. Most platforms, including Google and the Better Business Bureau, operate on keyword searches that consumers put in. Google has a great tool on their AdWords platform, and you could definitely have access to it. You can sign up for a free account, which basically says, you type in an industry or potential keywords, and it gives you a laundry list of all potential keywords, including search traffic that belongs to that, meaning like this is how many people search this keyword on a monthly or daily basis. Usually ask the platforms. If you're interested in the Better Business Bureau advertising, then you could ask them, okay, what is some keywords that I should be targeting for my type of business? For example, roofing contractors is a good category, but there is many keywords that we target in that arena. So definitely ask those platform providers for that information. But at the same time too, a really good trick is to go on Google and just start to type your industry. Say, for example, it's dry cleaning. Start dry cleaning. You'll see that drop down list that sometimes goes like predetermined searches, and that can help out with sort of what people are searching for in that type of industry using certain keywords. So those are some good tips for you to kind of get that information. Alan said thank you. Thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate it. Have a good day yourself. And like I said, I'll stay on here for another 5 minutes or so if anybody else wants to send any more questions. Okay. Lorelli, hopefully I pronounced that right, but she said, I would like to do a Facebook contest to engage people. If you see one of our trucks around town, take a picture and post it. Where can I go to find out to professionally launch this? That's a great question. Well, Platypus does these type of campaigns, and something that we could help out with for sure. Essentially, if you want some advice or are looking for an agency or the Better Business Bureau for some tips and tricks or even assist in the campaign, they can definitely help you out with that. But essentially, that takes coordination. You're absolutely right that the word needs to go out there. We need to give instructions. You need to have constant posting on social media to continue and make that successful. That's the patience part that I talked about. You need to get the word out there. You need to build your fan base. You need to build followers. You need to do all of that to make that successful. But that's a great idea. I think that's a fantastic way to make people aware of your trucks and your brand and all that stuff too as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested, we can definitely reach out. We'll definitely send that when we send that information off to you with the recording. If you'd like to learn more sort of ways in which we can assist you with that, that's absolutely something we can do. And then I would say that if you're looking for that too as well, doing your research on those Facebook platforms and other platforms to see if other people are doing those could also give you some tips and tricks as well. Monica, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, got some more questions here. Brittany, how do you break down the platforms to determine which one is recording the information best for your customer? Great question. So part of it is admittedly trial and error. I think with every business, every location, there's so many variables that go into including that persona. So one of the best ways is to try it with social platforms. There could be a small ad spend that you can get enough information where you have failures and successes that evaluate whether it's good or not. Again, be patient. But doing research. I think there's so many forums and so many different places out there that allow you to be able to do a quick Google search, focus on what you're trying to find, to give some feedback on blogs and other things about that. But again, there's nothing better than trying it. And I think at the end of the day, um, trying to do your research, talking with the representatives on those platforms, doing a research on traffic and keywords and conversions and that stuff too. Get comfortable. If you guys are comfortable enough, then it's worth investing that time in that diversity and putting in that. And then at that point, you are gathering that information. You own that information of how many people are clicking and impressions, and then start to evaluate it. Sit down, look at all those statistics and say, okay, this one's working for me. LinkedIn is doing really well. The Better Business Bureau is doing really well, but Facebook is not doing so well. So how can we refine that, or should we invest that money in other platforms? So that's a conversation everybody should have when you're looking at after the launch of these advertisements. Jenna, I may have missed this, but are you able to send me a copy of the presentation? Yes. The recording of this presentation, including these questions, will be sent out within 48 hours. So just look for that. You guys will be able to download it and you can share that with whomever. I have Richard, are click pay ads a good source of advertising? Again, I'm going to say that diversity is the answer for that. Click pay ads are a good source of advertising because there are consumers that go to these platforms all the time to seek out consumer business information that influences their decisions. But consistency, diversity plays a big part of that. So I encourage everybody to try these platforms, to come up with strategies and do your due diligence for sure. And at the end of the day, I think you're going to find that with a holistic approach, with all the stuff that we touched base with today, you're going to find that your advertising can be successful on many different platforms. And as long as you're refining and really paying attention to those things, click and pay ads and search ads and display ads and video ads, all those things are great ways to really get in front and capture that audience the way you want it to be. Okay, looking through the questions here. Let's see. Joshua, Facebook, I really don't like being on most social platforms such as Facebook and do not have an account. Is it necessary in today's world to have a Facebook account, or are there other ways to get your message out and get attention to your business? That is a great question. So, from a business perspective, it really depends. Joshua, if you could maybe send your type of business, I could put some context around it. But I don't think it's necessary, but you have to look at your persona. So if you know your customer, whatever that customer is, say, for example, do they go on Facebook? Do they interact on social media platforms at any point, any way, shape, or form? You know, your preference to be not on Facebook is totally fine, but can your business be on there? Can you strategically go and touch base with your customers, and is it advantageous? So, you know, it's not necessary. There are definitely other ways to, you know, like I mentioned before, you can do Google search ads, you can do advertising on the Better Business Bureau, you can do um, different types of advertising with regards to local print and media and different platforms that are in and around your service area. So there's ways definitely to get on in front of consumers, not just on social media. But this is where I would say build that persona, really dive in about your customers and make an educated decision as to whether or not it's worth it. And if it's not worth in on Facebook or any other platforms, then yes, you have plenty of other avenues to be able to make that happen. Tyler says, thanks for that, Mayor. I like to improve SEO for our website. Is there any online resources you could recommend for this? Yeah, SEO is a good one. So search engine optimization. You know, I always tell businesses search engine optimization is not a short-term thing. It's a long-term approach. It's something that is so involved with regards to optimizing websites and platforms, as well as ongoing change of content and everything. So I think Moz, M-O-Z, is a great resource to kind of get some free resources and understanding of SEO. It's Moz SEO. I would definitely just search engine optimization like resources that they can do potential scans of that information. But you know, sometimes you may have to invest a little bit to get a professional overview. But either way, do your research. Try to try to educate yourself as much as you can on sort of the trends. SEO changes every single day. That's what people don't realize, that you know Google, although updates their platform publicly, announcements, you know, once every 6 months, they're changing every single day. And to keep up with that and to keep up with SEO and optimizing different platforms is a full-time job. And at the end of the day, the more educated you are on that, the more platforms and decisions you can make appropriately. Um, are there any restrictions that social media sites put on contests? Do you have to pay a fee to run a contest? No, there is not. There's groups that you can form. There's contests that you can put. Social media is a free platform to consumers, so you don't really have to. You can outreach as much as you want, but keep in mind that it limits to your audience, so your followers. So if you have 50 followers and you post something, it's only going to get to those 50. So that's where advertising comes into play, where if you really want to target, say, an entire city, then that's where advertising can allow you to be able to do so on those social platforms. So if you're running a contest and if it's just for existing customers that are on social media, then it wouldn't cost you anything. But if you're looking to run a contest to try to get as many people to participate, I would consider running, you know, it can be as little as 25 bucks on social media to get the ads out there as much as you can. That was from Lorinda. Joshua was landscape maintenance. Okay, great. So, you know, for landscaping on social media, you know, that's a great question. You know, I think pictures from a landscaping industry can definitely lend itself to having positive impact with the work that you're doing. So, you know, first thing I'm thinking of is potentially Instagram. Facebook could help, but you know, landscaping contractors, maintenance, you're talking about homeowners in some capacity. Homeowners tend to be, you know, in the range of 25 plus. So are they using social platforms? Yes, absolutely they are. So, you know, I think that you have to just kind of look at it from that perspective and see if you can diversify your advertising. But you know, Joshua, I would try it. I would just try some social media if you can. Set it up where your privacy is set so it's not exposing yourself, and create a business page for it and start sending those pictures out. Start sending those things out. Those can have huge impacts on neighborhoods. You could target neighborhoods that you're doing maintenance on. So we have several landscaping maintenance contractors that we help out with the Better Business Bureau, as well as Platypus, and we tried to get that imagery out there because, again, their attention spans are short, and if they see that multiple times, they're more likely to, you know, potentially reach out and be a conversion. So thanks for sending that. I appreciate it. I think that's it. Let's see. So when we send this stuff out, I'm actually going to be reaching out and sending this information out to everybody. So if you want specific questions, I apologize if I missed anybody, but there's a ton of questions and I appreciate that feedback. Feel free to send that information over to me and reply. really look forward to touching base with hearing more stories and more questions if you guys have them. But otherwise, good luck, and we definitely look forward to having the Better Business Bureau and Platypus reach out to you on the next topic when it comes to online advertising. And again, please have that survey. Your feedback is hugely important. It also includes a question about other topics that you may be interested in learning about. So please feel free to give us that feedback. So thank you so much. I appreciate everybody, and good luck, and have a great weekend.